Washington Post disgracefully promotes a McCarthyite blacklist from a new, hidden, and very shady group. Ben Norton. Glenn Greenwald, November 26, 2016, 1:17 p.m. The Washington Post on Thursday night promoted the claims of a new, shadowy organization that smears dozens of U.S. news sites that are critical of U.S. foreign policy as being routine peddlers of Russian propaganda. The article by reporter Craig Timberg, headlined "Russian Propaganda Effort Helped Spread Fake News During Election," experts say, cites a report by a new, anonymous website calling itself PRUMMELL, which claims that millions of Americans have been deceived this year in a massive Russian misinformation campaign. The group's list of Russian disinformation outlets includes WikiLeaks and the Drudge Report, as well as Clinton-critical left-wing websites such as Truthout, Black Agenda Report, Truthdig and Naked Capitalism, as well as libertarian venues such as antiwar.com and the Ron Paul Institute. This Post report was one of the most widely circulated political news articles on social media over the last 48 hours, with dozens, perhaps hundreds, of U.S. journalists and pundits with large platforms hailing it as an earth-shattering exposé. It was the most read piece on the entire Post website after it was published on Friday. Yet the article is rife with obviously reckless and unproven allegations, and fundamentally shaped by shoddy, slothful journalistic tactics. It was not surprising to learn that, as BuzzFeed's Shiera Frankel noted, a lot of reporters passed on this story. Its huge flaws are self-evident. But the Post gleefully ran with it and then promoted it aggressively, led by its executive editor Marty Baron. In casting the group behind this website as experts, the Post described PRUMMELL simply as a non-partisan collection of researchers with foreign policy, military and technology backgrounds. Not one individual at the organization is named. The executive director is quoted, but only on the condition of anonymity, which the Post said it was providing the group to avoid being targeted by Russia's legions of skilled hackers. In other words, the individuals behind this newly created group are publicly branding journalists and news outlets as tools of Russian propaganda, even calling on the FBI to investigate them for espionage, while cowardly hiding their own identities. The group promoted by the Post thus embodies the toxic essence of Joseph McCarthy, but without the courage to attach their names to their blacklist. Echoing the Wisconsin senator, the group refers to its lengthy collection of sites spouting Russian propaganda as a list. The credentials of this supposed group of experts are impossible to verify, as none is provided either by the Post or by the group itself. The Intercept contacted PRUMMELL and asked numerous questions about its team, but received only this reply: "We're getting a lot of requests for comment and can get back to you today. Happy." Smiley face emoticon. The group added, "We're over 30 people, organized into teams, and we cannot confirm or deny anyone's involvement." Thus far, they have provided no additional information beyond that. As Fortune's Matthew Ingram wrote in criticizing the Post article, PRUMMELL's Twitter account has only existed since August of this year. And an article announcing the launch of the group on its website is dated last month. Voice information for the domain name is not available, as the website uses private registration. More troubling still, PRUMMELL listed numerous organizations on its website as allied with it. Yet many of these claimed allies told The Intercept, and complained on social media, they have nothing to do with the group and had never even heard of it before the Post published its story. At some point last night, after multiple groups listed as allies objected, the group quietly changed the title of its allied list to related projects. When The Intercept asked PRUMMELL about this clear inconsistency via email, the group responded concisely, "We have no institutional affiliations with any organization." In his article, the Post's Timberg did not include a link to PRUMMELL's website. If readers had the opportunity to visit the site, it would have become instantly apparent that this group of ostensible experts far more resembles amateur peddlers of primitive, shallow propagandistic clichés than serious, substantive analysis and expertise. That it has a blatant, demonstrable bias in promoting NATO's narrative about the world, and that it is engaging in extremely dubious McCarthyite tactics about a wide range of critics and dissenters. To see how frivolous and even childish this group of anonymous cowards is, which the Post venerated into serious experts in order to peddle their story, just sample a couple of the recent tweets from this group. As for their refusal to identify themselves even as they smear hundreds of American journalists as loyal to the Kremlin or useful idiots for it, this is their mature response. The Washington Post should be very proud. It staked a major part of its news story on the unverified, untestable assertions of this laughable organization. One of the core functions of PRUMMELL appears to be its compilation of a lengthy blacklist of news and political websites which it smears as peddlers of Russian propaganda. Included on this blacklist of supposed propaganda outlets are prominent independent left-wing news sites such as Truthout, Naked Capitalism, Black Agenda Report, Consortium News and Truthdig. Also included are popular libertarian hubs such as Zero Hedge, Antiwar.com and the Ron Paul Institute, along with the hugely influential right-wing website The Drudge Report and the publishing site WikiLeaks. Far-right, virulently anti-Muslim blogs such as Bare Naked Islam are likewise dubbed Kremlin mouthpieces. Basically, everyone who isn't comfortably within the centrist Hillary Clinton/Jeb Bush spectrum is guilty. On its Twitter account, the group announced a new plugin that automatically alerts the user that a visited website has been designated by the group to be a Russian propaganda outlet. To hype its own story, the Post article uncritically highlights PRUMMELL's flamboyant claim that stories planted or promoted by Russia's disinformation campaign were viewed more than 213 million times. Yet no methodology is provided for any of this. How a website is determined to merit blacklist designation, or how this reach was calculated. As Ingram wrote, how is that audience measured? We don't know. Stories promoted by this network were shared 213 million times, it says. How do we know this? That's unclear. Presumably, this massive number was created by including on its lists highly popular sites such as WikiLeaks, as well The Drudge Report, the third most popular political news website on the internet. Yet this frightening, Cold War-esque 213 million number for Russian-planted news story views was uncritically echoed by numerous high-profile media figures, such as New York Times deputy Washington editor Jonathan Weissman and Professor Jared Yates Sexton, although the number is misleading at best. Some of the websites on PRUMMELL's blacklist do indeed publish Russian propaganda, namely Sputnik News and Russia Today, which are funded by the Russian government. But many of the aforementioned blacklisted sites are independent, completely legitimate news sources which often receive funding through donations or foundations and which have been reporting and analyzing news for many years. The group commits outright defamation by slandering obviously legitimate news sites as propaganda tools of the Kremlin. One of the most egregious examples is the group's inclusion of Naked Capitalism, the widely respected left-wing site run by Wall Street critic Eve Smith. That site was named by Time magazine as one of the best 25 best financial blogs in 2011 and by Wired magazine as a crucial site to follow for finance. And Smith has been featured as a guest on programs such as PBS Bill Moyer's Show. Yet this cowardly group of anonymous smear artists, promoted by the Washington Post, has now placed them on a blacklist of Russian disinformation. The group eschews alternative media outlets like these and instead recommends that readers rely solely on establishment-friendly publications like NPR, the BBC, the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, the Washington Post, BuzzFeed and Vice. That is because a big part of the group's definition for Russian propaganda outlet is criticizing U.S. foreign policy. PRUMMELL does not articulate its criteria in detail, merely describing its metrics as behavioral and motivation agnostic. That is to say, even if a news source is not technically a Russian propaganda outlet and is not even trying to help the Kremlin, It is still guilty of being a useful idiot if it publishes material that might in some way be convenient or helpful for the Russian government. In other words, the website conflates criticism of Western governments and their actions and policies with Russian propaganda. News sites that do not uncritically echo a pro-NATO perspective are accused of being mouthpieces for the Kremlin, even if only unwitting ones. While blacklisting left-wing and libertarian journalists, PRUMMELL also denies being McCarthyite. Yet it simultaneously calls for the U.S. government to use the FBI and DOJ to carry out formal investigations of these accused websites, because the kind of folks who make propaganda for brutal authoritarian oligarchies are often involved in a wide range of bad business. The shadowy group even goes so far as to claim that people involved in the blacklisted websites may have violated the Espionage Act, the Foreign Agent Registration Act, and other related laws. In sum, they're not McCarthy,